Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're just standing there and someone taps you on the shoulder. You feel it, right?
Hmm.
Or you put your hand on a cool surface. You feel the cold. It feels pretty passive.
Yeah.
Like touch is just something that happens to you. Input comes in, you register it. That's the common picture, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. We tend to think of ourselves as receivers, kind of our skin, like a simple sensor just picking up whatever bumps into it.
Right.
But the source material we're diving into today, this Scholarpedia article on active tactile perception, it completely upends that idea.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the surprising core idea isn't that touch is passive at all. It's fundamentally active.
Yeah.
We don't just touch things, we feel. And that feeling isn't just about what's there. It's powerfully shaped by what we do, our own movements, our intentions, our goals in that moment.
The article kicks off with this fantastic quote from Ruzena Boxy way back in 1987. She said, "We do not just touch, we feel." It just captures the essence perfectly. Our tactile sense isn't some passive collector. It's an active participant, selecting, refining, even generating the sensations it receives based on our objectives.
So it's not just a simple one-way street like object meets skin, signal goes to brain.
No, not at all.
The article describes it as a closed active perception loop. You act, that action leads to a sensation.
Right.
That sensation informs your perception, and then that perception guides your next action. It's this dynamic, continuous circle.
That loop is really the heart of it. It means the organism isn't just reacting to the world, it's deliberately interacting with it to get specific sensory information.
Right.
You're not just feeling a surface, you're feeling for its texture maybe, or its shape.
And the source material shows how this idea has, it's evolved, hasn't it? Coming from different fields. It mentions James J. Gibson, a psychologist. Back in '62, he made a distinction that really laid the groundwork.
Yes, Gibson. He separated active touch from passive touch. Active touch is when you, the perceiver, control your body or your sensors to sense something.
Okay.
Think about, running your fingers over velvet or maybe trying to find the edge of a table in the dark. Gibson called this purposive. You're moving with a goal, searching for specific information.
Okay, so active is when I move to feel. Passive is when something just touches me. Like, I don't know, a fly lands on your arm.
Exactly. Passive touch is when the tactile sensation is initiated by some external force acting on you. But Gibson added this crucial nuance.
Which was?
Passive touch isn't just about being immobile. You could hold your fingertip perfectly still against, say, a vibrating surface.
Right.
And that might still be considered active touch if your purpose, your goal, is to gauge the vibration's frequency or strength.
Oh, okay.
The key isn't the movement itself, necessarily, but the organism's intention and control over the interaction to achieve some perceptual goal.
That makes sense, yeah. It's about why you're feeling, not just if you're moving.
Now, the article points out there's sometimes confusion around terms, like active sensing versus active perception. How does this source material clarify that?
Yeah, it's a good point to untangle. Basically, sensation is the raw physical stuff, receptors firing, signals transmitting, the basics.
Okay.
Perception is the brain doing its thing, processing, organizing, interpreting that raw data to make sense of the world, and importantly, guide behavior.
So active sensing might just mean moving your sensors during contact, like brushing your fingertips across something.
Right.
But I guess those movements aren't random. They're driven by what you're trying to perceive.
Precisely. And that's why active perception is the term the article really favors for touch. It highlights that you're controlling the sensor movements, the sensing part, specifically to select and refine your perceptions based on your goals.
I see.
Even, involuntary responses like reflexes can be part of this active loop if they contribute to that overall perceptual goal. And they contrast this with how active sensing is used in other contexts, right? Like with bats or electric fish.
Yes, that's a really helpful contrast, actually.
Sure.
Systems like echolocation or electrosensing, they use self-generated energy, like sound waves or electric fields.
Right, to probe the environment.
Exactly, to sense the environment at a distance. They are definitely active in that sense, probing. But touch is fundamentally a contact sense.
It has to make contact.
It has to. So using active perception for touch emphasizes this goal-driven interaction at the point of contact, which distinguishes it from those longer-range active sensing systems.
Okay, so the big idea is touch isn't passive reception. It's active purposeful exploration. And this idea, it's been developed over decades. You mentioned Gibson's distinction. Who else contributed to this picture?
Well, following Gibson, we see engineers like Rosanna Boxey picking up the idea in the late 80s. From an engineering perspective, she defined active perception for systems like robots as purposefully changing the sensor state parameters according to sensing strategies, driven by interpreting the data and having specific goals.
So applying this idea to building intelligent machines. And she wasn't just talking about simple feedback loops, but something more sophisticated.
Exactly. She saw it more as intelligent control theory, involving reasoning, decision-making, using process data, and existing knowledge. The article notes parallels in vision research around the same time, too.
Well, yeah.
Ideas like animate vision or active vision were also popping up, emphasizing the role of movement and goals in seeing. It shows this concept was kind of emerging across different disciplines interested in perception and intelligence.
Interesting. And from psychology, there's the work by Letterman and Klatsky on haptic exploration. This seems like where they really detailed how humans actually do this active touch.
Absolutely. In 1987, they view the human hand and brain as an intelligent device that uses motor skills to enhance sensory function. And this is where they introduced the idea of exploratory procedures.
Oh, yes. Like the specific ways we move our hands and fingers, like when you're trying to figure something out just by touch.
Precisely. They created this taxonomy, a classification of these purposeful hand movements. Things like rubbing a surface.
For texture.
Yeah, to feel texture. Or pressing into it.
Hardness.
To feel hardness. Or running your fingers along an edge for shape or contour. They found these procedures are specifically linked to gathering particular kinds of information.
Right.
And that we instinctively use them to optimize how quickly or accurately we perceive different properties.
That's fascinating that we have these sort of built-in touch strategies. The article ties this back to Bartosi's ideas too, right? This optimization thing.
Yes, exactly, because these exploratory procedures aren't random. They are controlled, purposeful movements aimed at optimizing sensory gain, getting the best information.
Getting the info you need, fast or accurately.
Right, optimizing the speed or accuracy. It aligns perfectly with Boxey's engineering concept of purposeful sensing strategies.
And finally, the article brings in O'Regan and Noe's sensoromotor contingencies. This sounds a bit more abstract.
It is, maybe a little, but the core idea is powerful and really generalizable, although they often applied it to vision. You know, their famous phrase, seeing is a way of acting. The concept is that perception fundamentally relies on understanding the rules, the predictable ways that sensory input changes when you perform certain motor actions.
So my brain kind of knows that if I move my finger this way across a texture, the feeling will change in a predictable pattern.
Exactly. Perception, from this viewpoint, isn't just about processing raw sensory data that comes in. It's about knowing the consequences of your own actions on your sensory input and integrating that knowledge.
Wow.
Their theory goes broader, linking this motor sensory knowledge to conscious experience itself. But the principle of the tight action-sensation relationship is crucial for active perception in any sense, including touch.
It's incredible how these different perspectives, you know, from engineering, psychology, cognitive science, they all seem to converge on this idea that action isn't just a consequence of perception, but it's fundamental to it, especially for touch.
And it's not just a theoretical concept, right? The article shows how this active approach is really evident in the biology of living creatures.
Like us with our hands. I mean, they're pretty amazing tools for feeling things out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our hands and fingertips are highly sophisticated, active, tactile sensors. Early research cited in the article showed that even simple things like how fast you stroke a surface changes how you perceive its roughness.
Yeah.
And comparisons consistently demonstrate that active touch leads to different, often richer, more nuanced perception compared to just passive touch. There's a whole field built on this, summarized in that tactual perception review the article points to.
But it's not just humans. The animal kingdom is full of examples, right? Like the rodent whiskers you mentioned.
Oh, the rodent whisker system is a spectacular example of active touch in action. Rodents don't just have whiskers passively sitting there.
No, they move them, don't they?
They engage in rhythmic whisking, sweeping those whiskers back and forth, sometimes hundreds of times a minute, actively exploring their environment.
That's definitely not just passive contact. They're deliberately moving them to sense things.
Exactly. And studies have shown they actively optimize their whisking frequency and amplitude based on what they're trying to feel. It's incredible. The neural systems are tuned to this active movement, and sensory feedback is critical for adjusting their whisking strategy on the fly.
Right.
The review on active sensation in the whisker system details this beautifully.
And the source mentions they even have different modes of whisking, like different strategies.
Yes, that's a key finding. They seem to operate in at least 2 distinct modes, both of which are active strategies chosen based on the situation.
Okay.
There's the generative mode, where they are actively whisking back and forth, seeking out objects, exploring broadly. Then there's the receptive mode, where they might briefly freeze or immobilize their whiskers to optimize information they're getting from an object that is itself moving.
Whoa.
It's like they have different sensing programs depending on whether they or the object are doing the moving. Both are active, purposeful strategies.
That's mind-blowing that they can switch between these calculated strategies. And it's not unique to rodents, this active touch thing in animals.
No, not at all. The article mentions other examples like the active use of antennae in insects, cockroaches, stick insects.
Okay.
And sophisticated tactile sensing in animals like the naked mole rat, the Etruscan shrew, even seals using their whiskers underwater.
Yeah.
Active touch is really widespread, especially across species that rely heavily on touch to navigate and find food.
And this relates back to the sensory motor contingencies idea for animals, knowing how movement affects sensation.
Definitely. For animals like rodents, think about it. The sensory input from a whisker bending is ambiguous on its own. It could mean the object is close, or maybe the whisker just moved quickly past something further away.
Right. Hard to tell just from the bend.
But if the animal's brain knows the motor command it sent to move the whisker, it can use the relationship between that command and the resulting sensory input to disambiguate. It helps them precisely locate the object or figure out its properties.
So their brain is integrating motor commands and sensory feedback constantly.
Exactly. To build a clear picture from touch.
Okay, so we see this active, purposeful touch in humans and animals. Did engineers look at this and think, hey, maybe our robots should do that too?
Absolutely. Recognizing the power of biological active touch led pretty early on to proposals to base robot touch systems not just on static sensors, but on these active principles.
So building robots that don't just sit there waiting to be touched, but actively go out and, well, feel things.
Exactly. We saw early implementations like robot fingertips controlling their own movement to trace the outline of an unknown object, or carefully controlling their speed and force to better measure the roughness of a surface, similar to those exploratory procedures.
And robot hands. Could they do this too?
Yeah, robot hands started incorporating haptic exploration strategies. You can picture a robot hand grasping something. It might use some fingers to hold it steady while other fingers actively explore the surface, maybe feel for contact points needed for a more secure grasp.
Right.
Robotics research often contrasts perception for action, using touch data to control a task like grasping with action for perception.
Which is active perception.
Exactly, using movement specifically to get better touch data.
And those whiskered robots you mentioned, did they get smarter too, beyond just moving?
They did. Early ones just had moving whiskers, which was a start. But later generations incorporated sensory motor feedback loops, much more like real rodents.
And did it help?
Yeah, studies showed really compelling results. Texture perception in these whiskered robots improved significantly when the whisking motion was actively controlled based on what the whiskers were feeling in real time.
That's a clear win for the active approach.
What about really cutting-edge stuff? The source mentions things like Bayesian approaches. Sounds complicated. Yeah, this is some of the most exciting recent work. It involves using advanced computational methods like active Bayesian perception or Bayesian exploration. The core idea, basically, is that the robot maintains an estimate or a kind of guess about what it's touching, including how uncertain it is about that guess. And it uses that estimate to decide its next movement. The goal is to make a move that will most effectively improve its guess or resolve any ambiguity.
So it's intelligently exploring based on what it thinks it knows and what it doesn't know.
Precisely. It's not just random exploration. And this has led to some pretty amazing capabilities, like achieving tactile super resolution.
Super resolution.
With touch. Yeah, the ability to feel details finer than the physical sensors would normally allow just by strategically controlling the contact. It enables robust sensing even when the robot is unsure of its exact position, and allows them to implement complex exploratory procedures similar to humans, like following a contour with real precision.
Wow. And the most astonishing nugget from the source, something about exceeding human ability.
This blew me away too. One specific method, using Bayesian exploration, where the robot carefully controls contact force and movement speed on textures. Well, in one particular study, it was found to exceed human capabilities.
Wait, hang on. A robot became better than a human at feeling textures by using an active, purposeful approach inspired by biology.
That's the finding reported in the source, yeah. It really highlights the power of this paradigm. By building systems that don't just passively receive, but actively and intelligently explore, engineers are creating artificial touch that can rival, and in some specific cases, potentially even surpass biological touch.
So after this whole deep dive, what does this all mean for you listening right now? How might this change how you think about your own sense of touch?
Well, think about those simple everyday moments. Feeling for your phone in your pocket without looking.
Yeah.
Or testing the firmness of an avocado at the grocery store. Picking up a tool or just some random object and recognizing it purely by feel.
You're not just waiting for the information to arrive, are you? You're actively moving, pressing, maybe squeezing a little, rotating the object.
Exactly. You're applying just the right amount of force and movement. You are, in essence, performing your own sophisticated, probably totally unconscious, exploratory procedures to gather the specific information you need to accomplish your goal, whatever it is.
Recognizing that touch is this dynamic, purposeful interaction. It reveals this incredible level of intelligence embedded in seemingly simple actions you perform every single day.
Yeah, it gives you a new appreciation for one of your most fundamental senses. And it also hints at the potential for artificial systems, for robots, built on these same principles.
So the main takeaway from this deep dive is really clear. Touch is far from a passive sense. It's not just input.
Not at all.
It's a dynamic, goal-driven loop connecting action, sensation, and perception in this continuous, intelligent exchange with the world around us.
And we've journeyed through it from the foundational ideas in psychology and engineering, seeing the compelling biological evidence in us and other animals, and looking at how these insights are driving the creation of increasingly capable robots.
And this really begs a fascinating question for you to ponder, doesn't it? If touch is so fundamentally tied to our actions and purposes, could this active sensor and motor perspective apply to your other senses as well? Is seeing or hearing or even tasting also, in some fundamental way, a form of active engagement with the world rather than just passive reception? Something to think about as you experience the world around you.